Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Morning, everybody. Okay, once again, we have stuff to cover. I just want to let you know that, of course, with hubby's help, the Patreon is up. The link is in the description box if you choose to join. The first video is up. I'll be posting those videos on Sundays, I believe it is. Saturdays, Sundays. So if you want to join or you want to follow me on Twitter or Gettr or Rumble, or you wish to donate to my coffee fund, all the information is located in the description box below. All right, lots of information to cover today. Let's get started. All right, starting out, King Charles is hoping to turn Balmoral into a public memorial reflecting on the Queen's life. He's trying to make all of the royal residences more public accessible, which I don't have an issue with that. Personally, I think that would be a lovely tribute to his mother. All right, moving on. All right, it's been announced that the first state visit for King Charles's reign has just been announced. It's the president of South Africa and his wife. No, I'm not going to upset anybody by attempting to pronounce those names. The visit is going to take place November 22nd through November 24th at Buckingham Palace. I think, personally, that's an excellent way to start the reign. All right, moving on. Next up, Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, met with representatives from Trial, which is a non-government organization dedicated to fighting impunity for international crimes in conflict, which is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I love her. She's so on it. You know what I mean? And just as an FYI, Sophie is the first member of the royal family to travel to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Fabulous. Now that King Charles is King Charles and William now has taken his spot and taken over the Duchy of Cornwall, he's essentially Charles's landlord and will be collecting about £700,000 a year just from Charles in rent. It's a £345 million property portfolio, and the duchy owns 128,000 acres of land, which netted £21 million in income last year. And of course, now we know that that's been passed on to William. Now, while Charles was married to Diana, the home Highgrove was their weekend home. And that is where he developed his love of gardening, and he's become very passionate about, the environment. The property is modern and environmentally friendly, being fitted with solar panels and a natural sewage filtering system. And the gardens they're a complete labor of love from Charles, because when he bought the home in 1980, the yard was unkempt and overgrown, and now he tends to it, and it looks beautiful. All right, next up, the articles are coming out that say that the picture of the Fab Four, the night before the funeral, is a picture that tells Harry and Meghan that there is no way back for them. Everybody's looking at these pictures, but the photograph is just brimming, the article says, and I agree, with symbolism. You have the new sovereign. He's got his son and heir. Looming behind him is the portrait of King George III, who was the longest reigning male monarch in British history. And it was taken on the eve of the Queen's funeral, right before they hosted that huge state reception. But it's a reminder also that the royals are always on duty, even when they have to summon every bit of self-control, as they did during the public grieving for the Queen. But the picture was taken to mark a, quote, historic moment for the family. But there's more than just history on display here, they said. They said the body language is very relaxed. It speaks of warmth and acceptance. And, one hand is on Camilla's back, but it's, the hint of smile on his face that's most telling, because this is a man not daunted by what lies ahead, but is invigorated of it, And it's a not so subtle nod to his wishes for the slimmed down monarchy as well. All right, this next article came up and caught my attention because it's saying obviously there was no forgiveness. So who are the real victims in this whole thing that's going on with the family? So let's not forget we had the Oprah interview. Then, looking ahead, we have the publication of Harry's autobiography, with publisher insiders revealing the potential titles are My So-Called Life, The Twits, The Adventures of Dennis the Menace and Minnie the Minx, and The Secret Diary of Princess Harry, age 13 and 3/4. No, I'm not kidding. It's going to be a petulant explosion, they said, of ginger-tinged revenge on everyone who has ever crossed Harry. Okay? You have the book The Courtiers that's come out that talks about the bullying that's going on. We just had the other, book that talked about the way these two have behaved in the past. So who is really the victims of all of this? I think we know the answer to that. Now, at the end of the article, it says, it would be so lovely and an honor to the Queen's memory if all parties could say, okay, mistakes were made, let's move on. No, you can't do that, because you can't damage the monarchy and say such horrible things about your family and expect them to just forget it and move on. The world doesn't work that way. That's unrealistic. All right, moving on. All right, we're going back again to talk about the blood diamonds. Now, I already did a video on these, but this new article that's coming out saying that Meghan was bullying her staff. We already know about that. And they're saying that the staff were kept in the dark about the earrings given to her by the Saudi guy, the one who had the journalist murdered. The chandelier earrings were a wedding gift from the Crown Prince, I hope I'm saying this right, Saudi Arabia Mohammed bin Salman. Just days after his regime admitted killing journalist Jamal Khashoggi. I don't think I'm saying his name correctly, which I think is a shame. But apparently she knew where the diamonds came from, but claimed that they were on loan from the palace. She claimed she didn't know what they came from, but even once she found out, she still wore them again to Charles's 70th birthday party. And then we found out about, while she was walking around in Australia, she said she didn't understand why she had to shake people's hands and was heard making the comment, I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this. Oh my goodness. We've all heard the stories since then about what's going on. Even Samantha Cohn, above and to the right there, apparently it's being alleged she warned staff members to stay away from Harry and Meghan after she was screamed at during the tour. And on the day that Harry and Meghan flew from Tonga to Sydney, Jason Knopf wrote the email saying the tour was very challenging and it was made even worse by Meghan's behavior. The thing is, the Sussex squad has to believe that every staff member was in on it and there was some great big conspiracy, instead of just admitting that there was a major problem with Harry and Meghan. Just a little note here, just so you know, these kinds of crap articles are coming up now saying that Harry's the one stalling on changing the kids' new titles so they can choose. Yeah, right. All right, the next story that came out was that Harry snubbed William's offer of a secret summit to heal their rift. So when they were in Johannesburg, remember, during the tour of South Africa, when they were standing in one of the poorest areas, and Meghan, of course, had the carpet rolled out for her, and she stood there in front of Todd Bradbury and said, nobody asked me if I'm okay, and it's so hard, and, all of this kind of stuff. Apparently, a preview of this was screened for the media while Catherine and William were on a tour of Pakistan, resulting in coverage taking away from the last day of the Cambridge's tour. Okay, but it did show them that that Harry and Meghan were struggling. Okay, so of course William was so upset he WhatsApped Harry and said, I'd like to come see you. So Harry was like, okay. But then when he spoke with him again and said, well, who do you have to tell about the meeting? William says, well, I have to clear my schedule, so I would at least have to tell my private secretary. And at that point, Harry was so paranoid, he told William, don't come, because he just assumed that William's team would leak the visit to the press. Yes, that's how paranoid he had become at that point. People are saying now that interview Meghan gave was the first intimation of her whole victim mentality. Like she was leaving like a trail behind her to prove that she'd been a victim from the very, very beginning. Okay? Crazy. I mean, former staffers were saying that she was constantly looking for examples of us failing her from the beginning. We were having to prove the institution would bend over backwards to make her happy. And the fact that they found out that she was in talks with Oprah and Netflix, and that she had, gotten the copyrights to names, like Meghan Markle 2022, Meghan Markle 2024, before there was ever even discussions of leaving. That's what makes people realize that this was probably planned all along. All right, moving ahead. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like we didn't know this, the palace is preparing for the bombshell book because they're saying that Harry is not going to hand back the cash that he was advanced. Well, the truth of the matter is he's probably spent it all. I'm not surprised. Bethany Frankel, we've already talked about her multiple times. I love her because she just basically says what she thinks, and she has now opened up about what she thought about Harry and Meghan holding hands at the funeral. And this is what she said: you can't compare affection in someone who's been together for 2 to 3 years for someone who's been together for, almost 2 decades, because that's what people are trying to do. They're trying to go, look, nobody's, William and Catherine aren't holding hands because they don't have that kind of love. They've been together for a minute. It's a difference on the length of the marriage. But she did say that people should grow up and keep your hands to your effing selves at the funeral, at the royal funeral. Grow up. And then she said, I don't think people like Meghan Markle because she talks down to other people. She's sanctimonious, and there's this subtext of elevation. She's up there, we're down here. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right, moving on. A royal expert is saying that it is not Harry and Meghan that are trying to stall the Netflix documentary. They're saying it's Netflix that's trying to stall the Netflix documentary because they don't have any content. My comment to that is, if you don't have any content after 2 years, why haven't you canceled the contract? All right, next up, articles are coming out now saying that Harry regrets his marriage to Meghan Markle. I've always said that I'm sure by now he realizes he made a huge mistake. But unfortunately, he had 2 children with this woman, so now he's stuck. He can't just walk away. He's got his, you know what they say, marry in haste, repent in leisure. And now, because they're in California, if he divorces her, then he has to keep her in the style to which she's become accustomed. She's going to suck him dry, monetary. I'm telling you. All right, let's move on to our last story for today. All right, the king and queen consort, Charles and Camilla, went for their first public thing, the first public event since the Queen's death, and this marks the end of the mourning period. Boy, were they well received. Watch this. And yes, that was Johnny getting out of the van as well with that big grin on his face. Anyway, Charles went down the line meeting everybody. Watch this. Then he entered the building. Here you go. He gave a fabulous speech. Here's a small little snippet of it for you. Watch this.
Ladies and gentlemen, my wife and I are immensely proud to be able to share this historic moment with you. I was delighted when in May this year it was announced that Dunfermline was one of the 8 communities being granted city status to mark the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee. There could be no more fitting way to mark my beloved mother's extraordinary life of service than by granting this honour to a place made famous by its own long and distinguished history.
When it was over, he stepped out and the crowds were there again. Watch this. Then they went to tour the abbey in the town that had been built in the 12th century. Amazing. Watch this. So they learned a little bit of history, then they went to sign the books, then they were gifted with a picture, then they left the abbey out for the waiting crowds. Watch this. So when they left there, they went to Holyrood House in Edinburgh, and they had welcomed guests of South Asian heritage from across the UK to that palace to recognize the contribution that those communities made to the National Health Service, arts, media, education, business, and the armed forces. Apparently, King Charles has been involved with British Asian communities for many years through his work with British Asian TST, which he founded in 2007 with a group of British Asian business leaders. Good for him. All in all, a very, very productive day, I think. Okay. Now, I want to address something that somebody wrote on my account. This person, I'm not putting her name up, but this person basically wrote, I've been following you since you started 2 years ago with just a few hundred subscribers. And basically, she's unsubscribing from me because I dared to open a Patreon. That's right. I'm no longer working in the ER, so I'm doing this instead. And how dare I open a Patreon? And to that, I say, if you've unsubscribed, we'll miss you. But this is what I'm doing now. And I don't understand why you would be upset at me attempting at making a living, which is essentially what you wrote. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So with husband's help, in the description box is the link to my Patreon, the link to my coffee fund, the link to my Twitter account, the link to my Gettr account, and the link to my Rumble account. There you go. You can click any of them and follow me. Okay? Don't forget to leave those comments below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to be notified when I upload. Although right now I'm doing it every day. At some point I am going to have to slow down, just a smidge, just a little bit, okay? To those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you. For those of you who have donated through my thanks button, thank you. And for those of you who have signed up for my Patreon, thank you. And I'm hoping to make good content that'll keep everybody happy. And as always, you guys, have a great day.